This past week, I finally broke the 1,000 subscriber mark on YouTube. I think when you start a YouTube channel, you have the goal of hitting 100 and then 200, then probably 500, and then you're like, whoa, maybe I can hit 1,000. And, for someone like me that I don't do YouTube full time, it's just a part-time thing that I have fun doing. I like to just share my music and my guitar playing. And, at one point in time, I realized that I'd put so much time and effort into promoting bands that I'd been a part of over the years, just to have them fall apart and then kind of just lose those followers that you've gained, because once a band is dead, you're not going to keep promoting it really. So I started thinking, I should really just promote myself and my own guitar playing a little more. That way maybe I can gain a following, and then whatever musical project I'm a part of, I can just promote to that following. And so that's what I've been doing the last few years, on social media and YouTube. And making the videos is a lot of fun for me. I do it for fun, just to promote my guitar playing and, show off a piece of gear here or there. Just, I'm not going to be one of those guys that gets a new piece of gear every other day and tries it out. And, there's nothing wrong with that. I watch those channels and I like that stuff. It's good information, but that's just not really what I'm here for. I'm here more for just playing guitar and showing off my riffs. But yeah, so it's been a lot of fun making videos, and for anybody that's starting out doing it's a process, man. You gotta just trial and error, and I'm still figuring it out, and it takes time and effort, but you just, if you're thinking about making videos, just do it. You got to start somewhere. One real quick thing, my band Mutual Hostility just released a new lyric video. We have an album coming out June 28th on Lethal Scissor Records. I'll put a link below to the video, so check it out if you would. But anyway, I just want to talk a little bit too about how I got into metal and just what it means to me. I turned 52 last month, and I never in a million years thought that I would be in my 50s, still playing metal, still playing in metal bands. But man, it's just something that I love to do, and it's just that I think the fire just burns inside me more than ever to play metal, to play guitar, to write riffs, and just, have a good time doing it. I started out listening to metal in the early, probably 85, 86, I'm guessing. I was in high school, mid to late 80s, and I was a skateboarder, and through skateboarding I started seeing skaters wearing Suicidal Tendencies shirts, or they might have a sticker on their board, and DRI and the Red Hot Chili Peppers. And even though the Chili Peppers aren't a metal band, their early shit was pretty wild. And so I started exploring those bands, and some of my friends were playing some kind of punk hardcore stuff. And man, I just loved the energy of it. And so I started kind of exploring that, and bought some magazines, and I would see pictures of bands, like Testament and Sepultura, and so it just kept me interested, and I was always looking for new music. And back then, you couldn't just get on the internet and listen to it. You had to go to the record store and buy it, or your friend had to have it. And I think the two albums, even though in the 80s Metallica became my favorite band, I think the two albums that really kind of changed how I thought about music were, it's pretty typical, but Slayer, Rain and Blood. I'll never forget. Dude I went to high school with, walking down my street, carrying this little boombox, comes up to my house. What do you have playing? Slayer, Rain and Blood. I'm like, what is that, man? That is crazy. He's like, it's Slayer, Rain and Blood. Like R-E-I-G-N, not R-A-I-N. I was like, oh, okay. And so I went out and bought it as quickly as I could, probably the next day. And the other one is Darkness Descends by Dark Angel. I remember a friend of mine had that cassette, brought it over to my house. I didn't even really realize he was into metal, but he played that for me, and I was like, whoa, this shit is crazy. And so I brought my dual cassette player outside and put my own cassette in there and just dubbed a copy of it, and I listened to that a lot. So during that time I was just really just hungry for it, just looking. I was into all the 80s thrash, Nuclear Assault, Testament, Death Angel, Dark Angel, I could go on and on. But and as time went on, I realized I had a couple of friends that owned guitars, and I remember I went to a friend of mine, the one guy's house, and he had, I believe it was a Washburn, but it would look like it was like a Strat style guitar. And he started playing some riffs, and they were riffs that I knew. It was like just stupid stuff like, first riff in Crazy Train, Boston's More Than a Feeling. I don't know, just stuff like that you'd heard before, and you're like, oh wow, this guy can like play stuff that is familiar to me. And then I remember at one point he let me check out the guitar, and I did not know what to do with it or how to play it, but I remember when I hit the strings, I was just like, oh man, I have to have one of these. So fast forward a few months down the road, and a completely different friend of mine was selling a guitar. It was a Memphis Strat copy, and I'll look for a picture. I'll put it up here. I have a hilarious picture of me with a mullet and with the guitar. But so I bought that guitar, and that was, I believe, like October of '88. And then my parents bought me my first tiny little crate guitar amp for Christmas. It would have been Christmas of '88. And so yeah, I started learning Metallica riffs and just trying to get better. I took lessons for like a month, and I just didn't like it. It just wasn't for me. I didn't want to learn scales. I just wanted to play Metallica and Slayer riffs, and so that didn't last long. But I just kept working at it and then I met a friend of mine, Jeff Shepler, and we started playing together, and I started learning a lot from him. And I started trying to write some of my own riffs, and we had a couple of band situations that were really nothing to speak of, just short-lived. But we did write some of our own songs and stuff. And then in '93, we formed the band Ton, which was my first real band. And throughout the '90s, we released 4 demos and a full-length album. And then 2001, we disbanded, and then got back together like at the very end of 2013, wrote 2 more albums and released 2 more albums, played shows, and that ended in the beginning of 2020. And so and there's been other bands in there. We had a band called National Collapse. We did play locally, but it wasn't something that got like heavily promoted or anything like that. But fast forward, and today, I'm playing bass in a couple of bands. I play bass in a band called 72 Legions, and I play bass in a band called Dead Earth. And I also have a project called Mutual Hostility, where I play guitar and bass. Well, I've recorded guitar and bass. We do have a bass player now. We're hoping to play out later this year, and we put out an EP in 2020, and we're putting out a full-length album June 28th of this year. So I guess just to sum this whole thing up, it's just, music and metal has just been a really important part of my life. I love playing guitar. I love heavy metal, death metal, and just the energy of it. It still gets me excited. And like I said earlier, there's just this fire inside of me, even at 52, that I just don't want to stop. And it's a lot of fun, and I don't plan to stop. So